This is Nishay. Nishay is a lynx who is a part of the Guild, and the Guild is a underground organization that deals in basically any job that they're paid to do. And Nishay is one of those members. She's a young, let's say, 14 to 16-year-old lynx. She's a relatively almost almost of like a normal adult age, but not yet. She's still quite young, and so we're gonna go over Nishay's story today. We're going to go over her lore. It's very brief because there's a lot of things I think we want to fill in, but for now it's good enough to give you the overall idea of what her thing is. And then we're going to go over her kits and how it works with the rest of the guild. More importantly, like isolated, how it works within itself, and then how it fits a little bit into the rest of the guild. But that synergy and kind of overall guild archetype idea is something that we will go over in a different video. And just as a disclaimer again, all the card names, besides Nishay, all the card names and card art are just for playtesting. These will all be updated at some point. Specifically, the art is just AI generated for playtesting, and the names were just unnamed to throw on there, so that way it wasn't just a blank 3-cost effect. So just so you're aware. So Nishay. So, Nishay was a part of a deal between her and her parents with a coven of hags. And so hags, if you're not aware, are basically like evil witches, like evil, gross, decrepit witches that have like this really horrible sense of like what is good and what is right, and like anything beautiful and happy with the world is kind of ugly and disgusting to them. So when she was a child, she was essentially, or as a baby, she was given to this coven as some sort of bargaining chip that they then were able to keep. So she was like a currency basically for her parents, realistically. So as a child, she was inquisitive, she talked a lot, and she was considered a nuisance by the hags as they raised her, quote unquote. And so to remedy this, the hags stole her voice from her, and then they shared it amongst each other and would mimic and mock her because she was now unable to talk. And then she had to hear her own voice through their mouths, through their lips, through them whenever it happened. And growing up, this would mess you up as a kid. I just I have kids, and it would mess me up. I would mess them up if I did that, obviously. But eventually a group of adventurers came into the hag hut that she was in, infiltrated the lair. They killed one of the hags. A coven of hags is 3 hags that have formed kind of a partnership. And so they killed one of these hags and rescued Nishay. And they told Nishay, because this is the only life she's known, is living with these hags who are horrible, awful. The adventurers told her how awful hags were and showed her what life could really be like without them. And she, visited taverns, visited a city as they tried to find what they could do with her. But she then just went on adventures with them. And she realized that through her entire life that she was tortured day in and day out and had slowly been turning into a hag. Like the magic of them had literally infused itself in her. And she had become uglier both outwardly and inwardly than she really had understood it, now that she was with this adventuring party. However, the other 2 hags would not let their possession go and would not take kindly to adventurers who had basically killed their sister, quote unquote. And they tracked down the adventuring party and did some horrible, awful things to them. And the adventurers lost, and the hags took back Nishay. And now having this glimpse of what life could be like away from this now 2 of 3 coven party, she did everything in her power to escape. And she realized that being on the run was the way that she had to live from now on, attempting to be as much as tricky and as versatile and as cunning as possible to never, ever, ever be pulled back into that again. So, however, like with her escaping and with her having grown up like this, she has hag-like power. She has hex blood here that basically gives her these kind of soul-like powers that hags have. It's this dark and kind of gross magic that she now is able to use, that she will hone over time and all these things. So eventually, one fateful day, as all stories have, one fateful day, she accidentally pisses off some thugs in a tavern, and it doesn't know how to really do much about it until she's rescued by a hawk that is nearby. within that tavern, and he swiftly deals with them in a just a no-nonsense kind of way. And she looks up at this hawk and realizes he has power that she wants, not to take, but rather to learn from. And he's good at, she barely even knew he was around. He was stealthy, and she already can't speak. And so she follows the hawk as best she can and keeps up with him, because she wants to learn from him. And that hawk is Lee, who is a member of the guild, and I think an OG member of the guild, if I'm not mistaken. So he's been in it for a long time, and so she follows him, and eventually Lee takes her in as kind of an apprentice, and she joins the guild with Lee. She uses hexblood magic, and the reason she's doing all this is so that way she can rid the world of these hags, so that she can feel free enough to be able to walk the streets without having to be afraid that she might be taken away, or that a hag is taken the form of somebody nice or something around her, that she's then taken back to that life. So she's honing her skills as a kind of an assassin in the guild, a rogue assassin, whatever you want to call it, and using her hex blood in the way that she knows how to keep all of this stuff, to keep life the way it is. So her last thing, which is kind of a flavor thing, is that her true form is not this lynx. Like, she looks like a lynx now, but her true form is kind of like partly decrepit and gross because of her hexblood. So she's constantly always trying to keep up like a visage of what she believes she looks like. So this could change, and I think it kind of works in some of these where it kind of changes what she looks like overall, but she has an idea of what she should look like, but what she actually looks like is a little bit of a mystery. So that's Nishay. I really like Nishay. She's really cool. She plays really well. She plays really, really well. And yeah, I like her story. Her story's cool. It's very gross and sad. But I think that is pretty much all of our stories. So we kind of have a thing going on. Okay, that's Nishay's story. Let's go into her character and how she plays in her kit. So Nishay's tricky, so she's purple. It's hard to see here, but she's purple. She has 4 attack, 3 hand size. That's what every tricky hero has. And it says on enter, and she's, I believe, the only on enter ability of any character so far. On enter, reveal the bottom card of your deck. Then consume 1 card with a cost equal to or less than the revealed card from your opponent's tenacity. This always hits. This is always good. When you reveal the bottom card of your deck, like so, right? You reveal the bottom and you get a 1 cost card, then you can consume a 1 cost or a 0 cost card. And because face down cards are 0 cost cards, you can basically always consume a card from a tenacity with her, which is very good. But remember, you have to rotate into her, and so it's not as bad as it sounds. It's just annoying and gross. Okay, so it's really good. It works perfectly well with the rest of the guild by hiding cards and setting it up, and yeah, it's all good. Next, we have the Bewitching Cloak. I think I called this a robe in one of our playthroughs, but it's a cloak. It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Okay, so this is her signature weapon, quote unquote, but it's an accessory. So this is her signature armory item, maybe is more generally what I should be saying. As an action, you can exhaust this to hide 1 card from your tenacity. Your opponent then hides 1 card from their tenacity. So she's able to really, so with her ability and with the Bewitching Cloak, she can really tear down defenses to be able to parry her. She's very mean and very strong, very good. And the hiding mechanic of this works super well with the rest of the guild for setting up other cards. Her defensive card is Into Shadows. It costs 2, which is a lot for a defense card. But Affinity, it has -2 cost, so for Nishay, it's free. And it says prevent 4 damage, which is insane. That's a lot of damage. I probably need to remove some damage prevention. Like all 2 costs should be like 3 damage, and then all 1 cost should be like 2 damage, and then so on and so forth. But for now, it prevents 4, which is a ton. Then it says draw the bottom card of your deck. And that's really good. Drawing cards is good. And for her, it's basically like a free card entirely. And you can set up that bottom card with whatever you need to. This card sometimes kind of gets you into trouble because you don't want to draw the bottom card of your deck. So I don't know. It could maybe be better. Next, we have Tell Me a Secret. This is a 1 cost skill. It says discard the bottom card of your deck. Your opponent reveals a card from their hand equal to the discarded card's cost. Then choose 1 to place in your tenacity. And then it has the affinity ability, draw the top card of your discard pile. So discarding the bottom card of your deck, that's whatever. That's fine. You can set that up in any way you want with a bunch of guild cards. That's their thing, especially with Bewitching Cloak. And this basically allows you to look at your opponent's hand for information about what they have. So the higher the cost of the card, the more cards you get to see. And then you can take one of those cards and put it into your tenacity as your own ability, which is really good. The thing you choose here from knowing your opponent's hand is the smaller their hand size, the better this is, obviously. But this card is very, very powerful. It's very good, and it's free when you're playing as Nishay, which is fine for tricky heroes. That's okay. But as a 1 cost, it should probably be more because it discards a card from your opponent's hand and then places that card and this card into your tenacity. So this might need to cost 2. But I think it'd be really hard for Nishay to play otherwise if it didn't cost, or if it costed 1. Maybe the affinity portion should be like, I don't know. There's a way to fix this card so that way it's not as good for each hero in your party. So, yeah. Soul Drain. Soul Drain is a 2-cost skill again, which is, once again, Nishay's whole turn, because she only has a 3 hand size. Affinity -1 cost, so it technically costs only 1. And that's relevant because these other cards can cost 0, and you can kind of play these cards with this card, you play this with this card. So this card is almost always playable when you have it in your hand as Nishay with another card in her kit. Okay, so affinity -1 cost, and then it says your opponent chooses 1. Reveal 1 life card, and life is stamina. So just old wording, but your stamina card. Or consume 1 card from their hand. So this card will 9 out of 10 times just consume a card from a hand. And I think that's okay. It feels a little cruddy to do that because you're like, man, I wish they would reveal a life card once. So like if you play this knowing they're going to consume a card, it's like the equivalent of discarding a card, but like technically better, and it's good for her Hexblood. So maybe what she needs is like one of her, no, I don't think I want to add anything else. Basically, it's like she can consume more cards, and that's good. But like this doesn't really do anything on its own. Like it's just a discard a card. So in its most layman's term, it's just discarding a card. So this might seem a little meh right now. That's it. It might just seem a little meh. So I don't know. It could be better, I think. It could be more interactive because right now it really just says do a thing. Consume a card. Okay, 3 cost from Shadows. So this is not even playable by Nishay unless we see that the affinity is -2 costs. So it costs 1 for Nishay. And it says defense cards played during this attack are consumed. That's really good. Just absurdly good. Okay, then it says reveal the bottom card of your deck, deal 2 damage, and then it says deal 2 damage again, but you can basically ignore that second one. I should really only say it 1 time. So whoopsies. Deal 2 damage, then deal plus X damage, where X is the revealed card's cost, and that's the bottom card of your deck. So you can set up the bottom card of your deck with a Bewitching Cloak, and then you can flip you can play your From Shadows to reveal that card, and then you get to add damage to this attack, so you can make it like ideally like a 5, which is on par with a 3 cost, but you have also this defense cards played during this attack are consumed, and that's a big deal. So this card's very good. It's also even just good by itself, like the 3 cost. The guild can set up the bottom card of the deck in 100 different ways. So like being able to play this is super easy by putting a 3 cost on the bottom of your deck. Even if it's a 4 cost, it's not that bad. 4 damage attack, which requires a 2 cost card on the bottom of your deck. There we go. Ooh, okay. Hexblood, last card in her kit. This is a 1 cost neutral enhancement, so anybody can play it. And it says not as an action, sorry. After a card is consumed, exhaust this card, draw 1 card. Consumed cards are removed from the game. So that's just an explanatory text that I was working with to see if I liked it. Because that's the thing most other card games do to explain keywords. So this works incredibly well with her entire kit. If you get more than one of these out, you're living the dream. Nobody should keep these alive. Or at least keep 2 of these alive. But you can consume with Soul Drain, From Shadows, and your leader ability. or your hero ability, excuse me. So this card's very good. It's always playable. It's also pretty weak, so you have to pretty much defend it every time, but that's totally fine because you have the Bewitching Cloak, and you can use their own cards with Tell Me a Secret. So there's a lot of ways you can use this, want to use Hexblood. It's a pretty core part of her kit. That's a neutral card, so you can play it in any deck. But that's Nishay. She works relatively well. She is mostly being playtested with Felicity and Lee. That's the gameplay video we have on the channel right now. There's just one, I believe. And they work really well together. The problem is they need to work well together, and then they also need to work well with the rest of the guild team, which is... let me see if I can find them real quick in my box. Which is Victor, Cammy, and Reginald. And I don't know if that's the case yet. All these, like these two teams of guild characters are so different from each other mechanically that I really need to mix and match them more to get the right playtesting ideas. So I don't know. We'll see. Nishay may need to see some rework somewhere, but I think she works really well as is. And she has a very core mechanic, which is bottom cards of the deck, which is the guild, and then she has the tricky portion, which is consuming cards aggressively and meanly. So that's Nishay. I hope you like our hag, our hag Lynx character. She's cool and we love her, and her story will be fleshed out, I think, a little bit more as we move forward. Oops, sorry with the camera. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any ideas, any suggestions at all, please leave them in the comments. Anything is helpful, and I'm taking everything right now with a lot of weight to it, because I think that there's a lot that could be improved. The game is good. The mechanics, I think, are damn good, but the cards definitely need some help kind of everywhere. So if you think that's the case and you have a cool idea, let me know. Other than that, wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing, have a great night, weekend, day, morning, whatever it is that you're doing. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Cool. See ya.